Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sheena's Arsenal. This is your post-match podcast for Newcastle 1, Arsenal nil. Arsenal have just lost their first game of the Premier League season. But for some reason, it doesn't feel like the first loss. It feels like something else is a brewing. You know how it is with Arsenal. Even if we're getting the results, there's always conversations underneath the surface that always rise when that loss finally comes. And losing midweek the way that we did, I think already started, a little bit of like negativity in the fan base and like what's going on. And then compounding that with the Newcastle loss, I think there's going to be a lot of reaction. And we're here to do the same, but to do it in a way that I think is maybe a little bit more productive. We're going to get to the nitty gritty and the real, but we're probably not going to go that far. You're probably not going to hear an Arteta out here unless Lee is feeling it. It's not going to come from me just yet, So we'll get into it. But my guest for today is Gooner Lee. You guys know him from the pod that we did for Chelsea. And the perfect thing about this is that this is our second time analyzing a game where Arsenal did not come out with the 3 points. And so we can kind of connect the dots from both games, because I do think there were similar themes in both games. But Lee, how are you doing today? I know you said you're a little bit under the weather, but beyond that, how are you?
What I'm not too bad. I am a little bit unwell, but I'm also thinking to myself, am I bad luck? Because this is the second time I've been on your pod and I've not come for a win. Is it me? Is it you? What is going? Well, it must be me. Clearly, it must be me. So yeah, I feel like Jess is setting me up here for failure. But no, I'm good. I'm good. I've got a good day incoming. But I feel like you're right. I feel yesterday, especially in terms of talking about the game, I was very, very nervous before the game started, but I feel like you sleep on it, and I do feel a little bit different, or quite a big difference in terms of prior and obviously now in terms of what we saw in the game. So, where it's going to be fun chopping it up with you for sure.
So why were you nervous before? Because I was nervous as well, but why were you nervous?
The favourites, right? You have players who you trust, and there's players you don't. There was worry with Havertz, not as much as the other players, and I think I just didn't like the lineup. I didn't really like the lineup. I didn't like what I was seeing, and I was very, very worried about what was going to happen in that game. I think the only positive was that I saw Newcastle didn't have their strongest team out, so I thought, well, we may have a better chance because of that, and that was my thing.
What would have been your was there a preferred lineup that you would have went with? Or was it just the fact that we couldn't field our stronger lineup? Because we do have quite a few significant injuries in Jesus and Partey. Emil's not there either. And
Odegaard.
Odegaard wasn't available. So was it that you wanted to see something different despite the injuries, or it was just we didn't have those players available?
Well, I think it was a combination of the both. I think the two of them, I think Odegaard obviously played midweek and then he gets injured. I thought, well, we're 3-0 down. What's the point bringing certain players on? It didn't make
Yeah.
sense to me. That was the first thing. I think Saka came on midweek as well. So, sorry, that kind of weirded me out a little bit, thinking, okay, well, hopefully Arteta, you're learning from this. But also, I think it was definitely the Trossard thing, which I was just thinking that's an obvious thing to maybe try something different. You've got some big, strong defenders in Newcastle's backline. Maybe try and pull them out of position. And I just think away from home, the thing that played on my head was that Nketiah, he hasn't scored away from home. Is he going to do anything? No, as per usual, he didn't. Even in home games, he doesn't do anything for me. I know he got a hat-trick in the last game, but I'm going to share my thoughts and feelings about that as well. But for me, it was a combination of those, both of them. Like the players were missing, and obviously, someone like, as I said, Odegaard not being fit, and then obviously I would have maybe changed a few players in that team. So yeah, but I was surprised. I thought we did a little bit better, especially in that first half.
Yeah, you make an interesting point with Trossard, because anybody that knows me knows I rate this player very highly. And I feel like the way he's spoken about in the fan base, where it's just like, well, he can't start. He's not a starter, so just whatever. I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, he started through the middle last season quite a few times, and that's the best that we've played without Gabriel Jesus has been with Trossard in terms of, the goals that we've scored, his GA, and linking the play between Saka and Martinelli, which is something that is just like completely missing with Eddie. So I was actually hoping that Trossard would start through the middle, but more of like blind hope because I just know Arteta doesn't like Trossard through the middle, or it's not his ideal option. So I agree, like, where does Trossard fit in here? Because also, if there was one chance to fall to a player in the box, if I had to guess, like between Trossard or Eddie, who would put it in the back of the net against Newcastle in a difficult game, I'm probably going to choose Trossard. So
Mm.
it was a little bit of a disappointment not seeing him there. Not surprised that Kai started because Odegaard is not available, whatever. Um, but then Arteta made the right decision in not playing Zinchenko. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, he's finally getting it that, like, against the bigger teams, because remember, we spoke about this with Chelsea,
Mhm.
that please do not play Jorginho and Zinchenko together. And really, when we're playing against the bigger teams away from home, don't play him at all. Were
Mm.
you happy to see Tommy in the lineup
Yeah, yeah.
post the Chelsea kind of debacle?
Well, I think, do you know what? I was happy to see Tommy in the lineup more so because I feel like Arteta's learned and he's doing something which he's almost gone against before, where he gives guys opportunities, says that there's opportunities for players, and now he's actually said, you know what, I'm going to reward you for your good form and your good play.
Mhm.
Obviously he's not done it with everyone, but or said giving everyone an opportunity. But yeah, for me, I think with the Tommy thing, I think that was clear as day, and I think I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. I think obviously, other than Saliba, he's our best one-on-one defender. I think Tommy's very,
Mhm.
very close to him. I think he just locks down the side. He's so good, and he is learning that inverted role a lot more, and he is offering different avenues to get out and play. So yeah, look, more props to him, and he deserves it. And I thought he was excellent yesterday.
No, I hear you. And so we'll go a little bit out of order here because we're already kind of going in this direction of like the first
Mm.
half, how we played, all this type of stuff. And then we'll go into the refereeing decisions and the Newcastle goal. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But I just want to continue this part because, like, I agree with you. I don't think we played poorly at all in that first half. I actually thought we were pretty good in terms of winning our duels and not getting ran over. I thought we
Mm.
were combative. I thought we were committed. I thought we did some good things. What I didn't really like, and it's something that I brought up against Sheffield, like when we played against Sheffield, I was told I was being negative, and I was like, y'all, Sheffield are one of the worst teams I've ever seen in my whole life. I'm not taking much from that game. I'm really not. But what I was concerned about watching Sheffield was that Zinchenko and Declan Rice were our main creators. And even beyond that, Zinchenko was like a free number 10, making deep runs into the box, but he's not a goal threat. And I'm like, why is it not the case that Kai Havertz and ESR are making these runs? Why is it not the case that ESR and Kai Havertz are not being the creative forces? They're the creative players. Why are they playing like almost like the center mid roles? And Declan Rice is being meant to be our creative player. Great player, is not a creative player, I don't think. He's doing amazing things, but he's a DM, right?
Mm.
Zinchenko is our left back. I get that he's like a good progressive player, but he's doing a lot that I don't feel like I want my left back to be doing. This game rolls around and Tomiyasu is playing amazing. I love Tommy, but do I
Mm.
want Tommy to be our striker, our left wing, our left back, our number 10? Do I want him to be everything? Why is it such that I don't feel like the right players are the ones that are getting in the box? The right players
Mm.
aren't the ones that are being like Declan Rice is dribbling up the side and trying to get us into the box. Why is Kai not doing that? Why are we
Mm.
not getting the ball to Martinelli and Saka and having them being the creative players? And so
Mm.
I'm finding that the way that we play doesn't allow for the players that we actually want in these dangerous positions to be there and
Mm.
doesn't put onus on them to be the creators. Literally, our left back is our everything, no matter if it's
Mm.
Tommy or Zinni. That's
Mm.
not a system that I feel like is going to create a lot of goal scoring opportunities. What are your thoughts on
Mm.
that?
Mm. Do you know what? I feel like that is so it's so pivotal what you just said there, and I think it's such a great point because you look at Arsenal and you think, right, the creativity. I think I saw a stat that we're 15th in big chances created. Now, why is that? How has that happened, especially from last season? Now,
Yeah.
obviously, if you're going to look at, you could talk about a few things. You can talk about, well, first last season we had Jesus, and he was creating big opportunities for himself and for others. The link up play was there. Odegaard was obviously not how efficient and proficient as he was last season. But you then have to look at the style of play, and I think ultimately
Mhm.
we are playing a different way, and everybody's going to keep saying it, and I think it does hold some weight. We are a lot better defensively, which is made our attacking verve or viv kind of like disappear a bit. But I think most importantly, it's hard for me to say what I'm about to say because I think in a microcosm of yesterday, I think Havertz was really good, but I do think
Yeah.
Havertz is just such a negative, whatever. I don't care if people are going to not like me. He's such a negative impact on the team overall. That doesn't talk about yesterday's game because I feel like I want to
Mhm.
give him his shine for that in a bit later on in the pod. But I do think he just doesn't add that attacking drive. Even yesterday, there was a moment where I'm looking at him to drive forward with the ball, and he did, but it just felt like very lackadaisical, very laissez-faire. Like it's almost a bit like airy fairy about him, and it's just not enough creativity and always making a safe options, always just passing it to Saka, and Saka's got 2, 3 guys around him. So it's such a combination of it all. But and I don't know if that's by design. I don't know if Arteta's thinking about all of these things. But you're right. Like it is weird that our left back is our most creative player. And even if you see the stats, I think when we played Chelsea up to that point, I think it was that Conor Gallagher had more chances created for Chelsea than Odegaard did. So
Mhm.
Odegaard isn't a crap player. He is not a crap player. I will fight for this guy until the day I die or until he falls off
I'll be right
because
there with you. That is my guy. Like,
he's such a good player. So you can't sit there and say that it's a fluke what happened last season. There's something that is innately wrong with this team attacking
yeah.
wise. And it's hard to say all of these things. Is it because Partey's not there and he's passing the ball forward and he likes to drive those balls forward to the left, to the right, or spray them out wide or whatever it is? I don't know, but I'm just
I
looking at
think
this
it might
team now
be
and
some of that too. I
yeah,
do. I think you replace two progressive passers in Xhaka and Partey with two
mm,
guys that are a little bit more safe in Jorginho and Rice or Kai Havertz. Like that's not really a passer anyway. That is
mm,
going to stop you from being able to access the central spaces and unlock these defenses. You have to be able to pass it quickly, 1-2 pass it like quickly through the lines, boom, boom, boom. Everything that
mm,
we do is so much slower. The one thing about this game that, I'm like, whatever, we lost to Newcastle, fair enough. It
mm,
took us until November to lose our first game. We've already
mm,
played all of the top six except for Liverpool. So
mm,
now we get to go into some favorable fixtures. We should be winning, but we won't win them, or we won't win them easily, or we'll make it more difficult if Arteta doesn't figure this out. He cannot
yeah,
have watched yesterday and, quite frankly, everything from August and not
mm,
feel like he's almost created a mess for himself. So he needs to get himself out of it, I think. I
mm,
don't think it's just as simple as he doesn't have his best players. I think his
yeah.
system is broken. I
Well, even yesterday, right? Man City played against Bournemouth. Okay,
Bournemouth.
fine, it's Bournemouth, but I saw Haaland come off the pitch injured apparently, and you know who went forward or force number 9? I saw a little Foden. Foden doesn't seem any bigger or any stronger than Trossard. So Arteta, you've got to make it work, and you've got to do something different because, as you said, you can't sit here and tell me that your whole formation, your whole tactic is based around one player. Yes, he's amazing. Jesus is great. Yes, Partey's amazing. He's great. But it's sometimes you've got to find a different way. You've got to try and cut the mustard a different way. There are more ways to skin a cat than the one way that you want to do it. And he's got to try it because otherwise, as you said, we've got Burnley next. What are we gonna do then? Like we can't keep making excuses. So I don't know. It's
That
it's
game
just
has
difficult.
to be 4-0 easy, chances created, everything. And I'm
Mm,
so glad you said the Foden thing. Like, I'm really glad you said it because people keep telling me that the reason why Trossard can't play, the reason why so and so can't play is because they're too small and they don't have physicality. But when Eddie is up there getting bullied and they're just pushing him off the ball, I just am like, well, if none of our players are physically up to it, to be like a traditional number 9, then I need somebody that's going to peel off of those defenders and create chances and come deep and combine.
What we're talking about is actually winning a game, and you need to create
Yeah.
chances to win a game. And we are creating chances, but we just don't have that person up front who even remotely takes his chances. And that's where you're kind of you're coming unstuck in games, because if you don't create chances, the little chance you do have, or that minute second, you have to try
You're
and
going to
take it,
snatch at it.
or you have to try and, as a striker, try and maybe do something different for you to create a chance for yourself. And he doesn't do that. And again, I think the thing we love about Jesus is that he creates his own opportunities, and he does do things where he can, have a bit of magic out of nothing. Eddie Nketiah relies on everybody else to do something. And, the thing, even you'll know, like when you play NFL, perfect example, the wide receiver is only as good as the quarterback. I love NFL. So I watch it every single week religiously, other than today because I'm busy. But the whole point is that these wide receivers, you only get so much money depending on the quarterback, because they have to make you the star that you are. And I think with what
Mhm.
we've got behind you, what we've got behind Nketiah right now, it is good enough. But that wide receiver who's a striker for us isn't doing anywhere near enough to hold that position. And even yesterday, I saw a stat that Nketiah has played 100 games for Arsenal, and I just couldn't believe it. I just looked at it and I'm
He's
like,
played a
how has
lot of
Nketiah played
games.
100 times for Arsenal? And then it just hit me even more that the guy's got the number 14 shirt, and I'm just like, wow.
Do you think his tackle against Longstaff, do you think that was a red? Because this morning, everybody seems to be watching slow-mos and saying, you know what, actually, it was a red.
Do you know what? I do think it was a yellow, but I look at it and I think it was very unnecessary. I think that was the first
Yeah.
thing, because the ball definitely was gone. But if we're talking about the actual action, I don't think it was a red. I think there's credence to say it could be a red, because the forcefulness of it. I think the temperature of the match, which shouldn't play a factor into it, but it does. And I just think that it does look worse than what it was. But I feel like if it was a Newcastle, if it happened to us, I genuinely feel like Arsenal fans would be asking for it to be a red. So I can see why Newcastle fans would be annoyed. I just don't think it was as bad as people are making out. And, it's always the same thing. Just like with VAR, they're looking to find that moment to say, we're going to chalk this
Mhm.
goal off. I feel like this morning, or time after, people are trying to find ways or reason why it's a red card, but it wasn't. I think I'm sure, and again, we're kind of moving into that. We're moving
Mhm.
off that into the Bruno thing. I don't feel like it was a now, with the yellow card or red cards, whatever it is, you have to. It's not always about the intent. It's more about you have. It's just the recklessness of it. So I feel like it was a reckless move to do. I feel like it was. He wasn't as in control of his body as he should do, and ultimately, red cards aren't determined always about the action. It's almost about, are you in control of your body, and are you endangering somebody else? And that's why I feel like
Right.
there's credence for Newcastle fans to say, do you know what, that's a red card. But when you look at the Bruno Guimaraes incident where he elbowed Jorginho, that was with clear intent, and his arm was in an unnatural position to try and win the ball back, because what had happened was he lost the ball, he felt he deserved a foul or what free kick before, and he went in with his arm or elbow into Jorginho's face. And I feel like that's where there's a difference, because it was clear
Yeah.
with intent for him to do something, whereas even though I feel like the Havertz thing was reckless, I don't know if there was enough to give him a red card. For you to put your arm and elbow into someone else's face and think that that's normal is beyond me, because you wouldn't do that in the street.
No,
You
you
wouldn't
wouldn't
do
do it
that in
in
the
the
street.
street. And anytime an Arsenal player's ever done anything in retaliation, we've been sent off right away and called stupid.
Yeah,
We've been said we don't have the right mentality. We get rattled too easily. Bruno
we don't
Guimaraes
have
was rattled.
cojones. We don't have cojones. Remember the whole rhetoric with Troy Deeney? Oh, because they
Yeah.
rattled us, and now all of a sudden we don't have cojones to stand up and fight. Well, hold on, which one is it? Like, if we, and even think about it, was it last season or was it the season before that we played Man City away and Xhaka got sent off? because he
Yeah.
retaliated. Well, what
Yeah.
one is it? Like, somebody just tell me which side of the fence you're on, so I can then understand what the concept
It,
of football is.
that, but again, unless you beat the team, oh no, girls. Okay,
Um,
I thought we were about to get scored on. Unless we win the game, the narrative is always the same. They scored. So we have to talk about the goal because it was just completely like it is probably one of the most. It will be besides the Luis Diaz onside goal that was called offside.
mm,
This one will be heavily spoken about as well because there were so many different factors to it, and like in real time, I have to be honest that I didn't really want to buy into the narrative that we were being done by the refs because
mm,
it's just not in my character. I try to look at
mm,
see what we could have done better, that we could have controlled. And I'll say this that a lot of what they were saying was it was inconclusive. It was inconclusive whether or not the ball actually went out. It was inconclusive whether or not Gabriel was fouled. It was inconclusive whether or not he handballed it. Like all of it was inconclusive.
mm,
That's never stopped you from calling a goal back ever.
mhm,
Like in life, this
mm,
inconclusive thing is new to me because if that's the case, fair enough. If you can't really figure it out, but I remember Gabriel Martinelli was called like he scored a goal. The ref said it was a goal, and then VAR stepped in and said that they thought he was offside, but they didn't have an angle that they could actually use to justify this offside, but they still called it
mm.
back.
There's 3 to 4 different things that a goal can be ruled off for. When has VAR not thought to themselves, there's 3 or 4 things and they're gonna rule off at least not gonna rule off at least one of them. The handball, the ball going out of play, the push in the back, and what was the other one? There was one that I'm missing. Oh, and the
Handball
offside,
offside.
yeah, and the offside. So that's 4.
Yeah.
I mean, all 4 of those decisions, you're saying that none of them looked even remotely out of touch and out of the ordinary. For me, I really don't understand. But you know what? I do want to say something, and I feel like the referee overall throughout the game actually gave us more of the rub of the green, and it gave us more free kicks and stuff than I think Newcastle. I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like we did get a good refereeing performance in terms of that part of it. The VAR,
Yeah,
obviously,
I did too.
we're going to talk about that, but I don't feel like we were shafted, and I don't feel like we were shafted in that regard. I just feel like the VAR stuff is, well, I mean, obviously the red card decision for Bruno, I don't
It's,
understand, but again, that was
um,
VAR, so I just feel like it was all VAR. Like, as per usual, we speak about it every single week, so yeah.